The third habit addresses the income side directly, and it is the one that most reliably keeps a family of this kind connected to the world of genuine wealth, even while their own liquid resources remain limited, converting social capital into income through board positions, consultancy arrangements, patronages, and advisory roles that compensate the family member not primarily for labor, but for their name, network, and the credibility their presence lends an organization. A family name that carries genuine historical weight is, in a real sense, an asset. One that appears on no balance sheet, generates no obvious yield, and yet can be deployed through the relationships and introductions that decades of social position produce into income streams with very little to do with traditional employment. The family member who sits on the board of a charitable foundation, who lends their name to a heritage organization, who is brought in as an advisor because of who they are rather than what they have done professionally, is monetizing something the family has been quietly accumulating for generations without ever describing it to themselves or anyone else as monetization at all. The fourth habit is perhaps the least visible from the outside, and it does the most to explain how a family with very little spare cash can participate fully in a social world where the appearance of cash is everywhere. An extensive, largely unspoken economy of favors, hospitality, and reciprocal access that substitutes for cash transactions almost entirely within certain circles. The family that cannot afford to constantly host expensive events or travel as often as their social circle participates instead through hospitality at home, using the asset they already have, the house and the land, to reciprocate invitations in a currency that costs them little in cash terms, but is received by everyone involved as being of equivalent or greater social value. A weekend at the family estate is not a lesser form of reciprocity than a weekend at a 5-star resort. Within this social world, it is frequently the more prestigious of the two, meaning the family's actual cash outlay for maintaining their position in a cycle of reciprocal hospitality is dramatically lower than if cash were the only currency this economy accepted. What unites these four habits is a single underlying move: a refusal to let the absence of cash define the family's relationship with status, combined with a willingness to find cash-equivalent value in assets, physical, social, and reputational, that a purely income-focused household would never think to look for. The transferable lesson is not that anyone watching this needs to own a stately home or a centuries-old name, but that the underlying question, what do I already have that could be doing more work than it currently is, without my having to sell it or earn more to access it, is one that applies at every level of wealth, and that most households never think to ask, because most households have been taught to think about their finances entirely in terms of income and spending, with assets treated as a separate category that exists somewhere off to the side. If this video gave you a new way of thinking about the relationship between what you own and what you can spend, hit the like button and share it with someone who would find it as interesting as you did. With that said, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one.